Another video on the channel. Today, I'm going to introduce you to the holy trinity of defending. That's right, we're going to introduce the interception, the tackle, and the net duel. Here we go. Today on the channel, we have the highly anticipated, much talked about part 2 of our series about the Sorare scoring system explained. So we're going to hop straight into the video. Today, we are focused on defense, defenders only. I'm going to do a separate video for midfielders. Hopefully that should come out Friday. And then we will be talking about the forwards sometime over the weekend, either Saturday or Sunday. So make sure you guys are tuned in for those two videos. We're going to go over a bunch of different examples about different defenders who you may want to target, different strategies that you might want to take. So definitely take a look at those two once they come out. But we're going to hop straight into defenders for today. So we're going to go ahead and get everything switched over. So first off, we're going to take a look at the scoring system on the site. Again, if you don't know how to find this page, it's under community, and then you go to help, and then we're under the how is the player score calculated. So first off, again, remember what we have from the first video. Remember that we have our decisive score, which is like big things that affect the outcome of the game. And then we have our all-around score, which is little actions that kind of add up over the course of the game to really determine how well we did during the game. So you can see these are the big actions. So for defenders, we will actually have goals and assists that come into play. Penalty one, not so much unless you're maybe a wing back that gets into the box to cross. Occasionally you can win a penalty, but that's not going to happen very often. Clearance off the line is a big one, so definitely keep an eye on that one. And then last man tackle is going to be the other one. Obviously we can't get a clean sheet, and unless something really crazy happens, our defenders are probably not going to be saving many penalties. On the negative side, we can have red cards, which are big, own goals, which are big, and conceded penalties, which are big, and then errors that lead to a goal, which are big. So a lot of kind of mines for us to watch out for when we're looking for our defenders. We definitely want a defender who's solid and competent, obviously not getting red cards, not getting own goals. That's a given to start. If you got a defender that scores a bunch of goals on his own team, first off, I don't know why he's still playing for that team, so it really doesn't make any sense to me. But if he does, we probably don't want him for Sorare. So we're going to keep all of that in mind. Most of this stuff is going to be kind of hit or miss for the defenders. It's kind of a bonus when you get it. If your defender scores a goal or your defender gets an assist, your defender gets a clearance off the line, just be thankful for it. It's probably not going to really repeat that many times. The absolute best defenders are going to only score maybe 4 or 5 goals a season. So realistically, we don't want to be banking on that when we're going into our games. But I'll show you how we can kind of keep an eye on that and keep an eye on players who might have a little bit better chance of scoring or assisting or getting a last man tackle, something like that. So now we're going to get into the all-around score, which is really the heart of what we're getting at. So first off, notice that this is our defender column here. First off, notice that the defenders get 10 points for a clean sheet. So it's not as important as a goalkeeper. Now for a goalkeeper, it bumps them from 35 to 60, so that's 25 points. For a defender, we only get 10, but 10 is still a pretty decent amount. If your team can get a clean sheet, realistically, you don't have to do anything but start, and you're already at a 45, which is pretty close to where you need to be in order to hit those E thresholds. So if you're looking for E threshold type team, look for a team with a good defense and maybe get one of the not so great players on that team. You're going to get a little bit of a benefit from them just being on a good team, on a good defense. Nashville is a really good example of that. So I like to use the example of David Romney for that. He gets a bunch of points because Nashville doesn't concede a lot of goals. He's a decent player in his own right, but he's definitely benefiting from being on that team specifically. If he were to be traded to, say, Montreal, that wouldn't really make any sense for us to keep banking on him getting that clean sheet points. So being on a good defensive team is something that does matter, so you do want to pay attention to that. Now, goals do count against defenders, but they're only 2 points, so not a huge deal. We don't want to be giving up like 4 or 5, but realistically, a goal or two isn't going to really hurt our score too badly. Clearances are a half a point, and now we get what I referred to earlier as the holy trinity of defending, right? So first off, we have our 1 tackles. Okay, so it's not enough for you to just go in and try to attempt to tackle somebody. You actually have to win the ball. So actually dispossessing the player and winning the tackle, that's one of the big 3. Okay, so we're going to focus on 3 key stats here for the defenders. The tackle is the first one. One of the things that's not a key stat, blocked crosses, blocks. You do get points for those. So if you have a guy that likes to dive in and block stuff, it is helpful. We'll get back to this double-double, triple-double stuff. I'm going to move on for a second. Now you can see possession lost is actually more crucial for a defender than it is for a midfielder or a forward. So since we're at the back, we shouldn't really be playing risky passes as a defender most of the time. So if we do lose possession, it's probably not going to put our team in the greatest position. That's why we're losing more points as a defender. First off, it's a lot harder to lose possession as a defender than as a midfielder or a forward. And when we do lose possession, it puts our team in a worse position. So you can see that we lose more points here. So we do have to pay attention to possession won and lost. If there's a defender that's giving the ball away constantly, that can add up a lot over time. If they give the ball away 4, 5, 6 times a game, that can really negatively impact your score. Now we get to the second of the Holy Trinity, which is duels won and lost. So I'm going to call this net duels. Okay, so for defenders, if we win a duel, we get 1.5 points. If we lose a duel, we lose 2 points. Okay, so the big thing with duels is not just duels won, it's net duels. Okay, so it's your duels won minus your duels lost. If we're getting into a bunch of duels, it doesn't matter if we win 50% of them. We'd much rather have a player that really doesn't get into that many duels, but wins all of them when he does get into them, because we're not going to lose these 2 points every time we lose a duel, right? So instead of us getting 5 duels won, 5 duels lost, that's going to be a net of a loss of 2.5 points. We'd much rather have 2 duels won and 0 duels lost. That's going to be a net of 3 points, right? That's a pretty big difference, and our guy won 3 less duels. So that's a big thing here when we want to keep in mind as far as duels won and duels lost. It's really the net duels that counts here. So remember on tackles, if we go back up here to tackles, there's no negative for a missed tackle. Now there's a negative for a foul, but there's no negative if you attempt to get the ball and you just don't get it and there's no foul called, right? So we don't care if a guy is trying to get tackle, and he only wins 3. That's fine. He still won 3 tackles. Whereas with duels, we really care about the net duels. So we really care about if he gets into a duel, he wins it every single time. And then lastly, so the other Holy Trinity here is interceptions. So again, this is similar to tackles. There's no missed interceptions. Now you can have a mistake that leads to a goal or something of that nature, but there's no. I don't know how you would miss an interception without really. I don't know how that would work, but there is no real negative for interceptions. So if a guy's going for interceptions over and over and over again, if he gets 2 or 3, great, that's a positive. If he somehow misses them, it's not really a negative. So for tackles and interceptions, we care about total wins. For duels, we care about net duels. We care about the wins minus the losses. And then you can see there are some good opportunities going forward as well. So we have big chance created, right? That's 3 points. Attempted assist is 2 points. And then if we have accurate passes, which we really should as a defender, so we do want guys that are involved in the build-up here. Accurate final third pass is a half a point. Long ball is a half a point. So if you get that guy that switches play a lot, a la Trent Alexander-Arnold in the Premier League, that can add up. You can add up points that way as well. So you can get guys that are kind of involved in the build-up. And then if we take a shot on target, if we win contest, but most of this stuff isn't really going to happen too much. So realistically, with defenders, what we're focused on is this stuff up here. So goals, assists, clearance off the line, last man tackle. And then the negative stuff: red cards, own goals, penalties conceded, and errors leading to goal. Okay, we're concerned about that. And then we're concerned about the big three, which is tackles, interceptions, and net duels. So the other advantage of the big three here is this double-double, triple-double, triple-triple thing. Now, if you just see this, you may not really know what it means, but what it's referring to is the big three. So if we have 2, let's say, interceptions and 2 tackles and, say, 1 net duel, that's a double-double. So we got 2 of those things. If we get 2 of all 3 things, then that would be called a triple-double. So say we get 2 interceptions, 2 net duels, 2 tackles, that would be called a triple-double. So that's a little bit higher level. And then a triple-triple would be all 3 things we got 3 of at least. So 3 interceptions, 3 tackles, and 3 duels. So you can see, I did a little thing here so that you can see really what that looks like. So I just picked random numbers out here. But so this one would be a double-double, this first line, because we have 1 tackle 1, 2 interceptions 1, and 3 net duels 1. So that would make 2, we would have gotten at least 2 of net duels and interceptions. So we would get the double-double bonus. And then I actually added up, if you take all of the duels, you take all the interceptions, and you take all the tackles 1, I added up exactly how many points your player would get, and they'd get 17.5. A triple-double here, so you can see all 3 categories we got 2 of, right? So we got 2 tackles 1, 4 interceptions, so that's at least 2, and 2 net duels. So in this situation, we'd pick up 27 points, and then a triple-triple is the holy grail. If you get all 3 of these things, you're going to be racking up huge points, because remember, you're getting points for the individual things themselves, and then you're also getting points for getting the triple-triple as a whole. So in this case, we'd get 43 points for getting our triple-triple. So now we're going to get into some specific player examples so you can kind of see exactly what I mean when I say what types of players we're looking for. So the first one is kind of the holy grail, right? So this is Walker Zimmerman. He's the best defender in MLS, Sorare-wise. Pretty much unquestionably, I think. His price is ridiculous, although his price has been dropping a little bit recently, just because everything's been dropping. But, so here is, I'm going to show you his scores down here, because I think this kind of helps to visualize what he's really doing. So on this side, you can see 35 is a start. And if he has a 60 in any column, that means he did one of those big things, right? He scored, he assisted, he got a clearance off the line. We have a bunch of 35s, right? So he doesn't score or assist that often. Like I said with defenders, it's fairly uncommon to see a goal or assist. So when you get one of these 60s, you got to be pretty happy with it. The real way that he makes his money is over here in this column, right? So you can see a bunch of 20s and 30s, and had one real bad game there against Orlando, but realistically overall he's putting up a 20 at least every single night. So when you add that to the 35, he's getting at least 55, and that kind of bears itself out in the chart. He has very few games where he's below 55, right? Couple weird games here and there, but overall he's kind of very consistently above 55, which is an elite defender. Right? And then when he does score, which he has a good header, so he does score off of corner sometimes. When he does score or assist or something like that, you can see his score kind of jumps up a little bit, and his max is up in the 80s. Okay? And I don't think that's actually his max. He could have a 30 game and score, and could be up in the 90s. But that's just what his max has been so far. So this is kind of like the holy grail. This is the ideal defender. He's a guy that's very involved in the build-up. He's a guy that wins a lot of his duels. He's a guy that does create chances going forward. He's a guy that has interceptions and tackles to spare. And he has a threat of scoring or assisting in any given game. So Walker Zimmerman is kind of the gold standard. That's just kind of unquestioned. Next, we're going to move to a guy who is a little more under the radar, who is still pretty much the gold standard. I mean, U.S. national team-wise, they're neck and neck. Aaron Long and Walker Zimmerman. So Aaron Long, we can see his scores. So he does have a few more lower scores here, but you can see he also has that huge high potential. And when you really take a look at this down here, you can see he really hasn't scored very much recently. He can score. He does have a good header off of corners. He has the 160 here, but the rest of this is all from all-around score. Okay? So you can see, especially a lot late last year, he wasn't really playing well, had a few DNPs in here, so his scores were kind of lower. To start this season, outside of this game, obviously, he's been much, much better. 16.5, 29.5, 55. So those are really, really good scores that are going to give you a pretty decent chance. I think he's going to settle around that 50, like low 50s average, which you can see he's already actually up to 52 average. So he's going to settle into that kind of area where he's a very solid elite player, and he has these big spikes and big bumps, which can help you win cards if that's what you're trying to do. So you can really see, I always recommend Aaron Long to anyone who's trying to start a lower team, and really his price is held pretty firm throughout this. He used to be a lot cheaper fiat-wise. But his price has really held pretty firm, even Ethereum-wise, even as Ethereum has gone through the roof recently. And I think that's a real testament to the kind of scorer and the kind of player that he is. So people that kind of ask me for advice and ask me for good defenders, I always mention Aaron Long. Next, we can see Daniel Lovitz. So Lovitz is a player that's a lot more going forward. He doesn't have a ton of interceptions or a ton of tackles, doesn't really do the whole Holy Trinity thing, but you can see he does have some bright spots going forward. He is going to create some chances for us. Now you can see, actually, his scores could be better too, because for being such an offensive player, he only has 160 down here. He's only had 1 assist recently. And with the amount of chances he creates, you would expect to see more assists from him, to be honest. So I think these scores are even maybe a little low from what he's actually been producing. I think these scores are, I mean, they're obviously fantastic, and they might be honestly too low for what he could do. I mean, he can pop up with a 100 pretty much any time he does any of these games. Like this game, if he had gotten an assist, that's 100. This game, if he had gotten an assist, that's 100. This game would have been a 90, a high 80 there, low 90 there. So I mean, you can see he can pop off if he really gets the chance, and I would kind of expect assists to come. So I think Lovitz is a really good player, and also he's on Nashville, one of the best defenses in MLS. And I don't know what I've clicked there, but he's on one of the best defenses in the MLS, so he's going to get that plus 10 clean sheet bonus a lot too. So also something to keep in mind. Next, we're going to go to Zac Brockhill. So he's a guy that you can kind of see so he's more going forward, but he doesn't really add that defensive capability like Lovitz does. So you can see his all-around scores are a little bit lower, right? He's averaging more in the 10s as opposed to the 20s and 30s like Lovitz was averaging. But you can see his scores still look pretty good because of these 60s. So if we look at the chart, yeah, he's got some 60s and 70s up here, but would I want him over Daniel Lovitz? No, and not just because he's DNP'd the last 2 games. I wouldn't want him just because if he doesn't have any assists, this is his run of form right down here. So if he doesn't get any assists and he can get kind of run over in defense, that's kind of what you're looking at. If you're a defender who can't defend and you start losing duels, you're going to lose points very, very quickly. So you do need to have somebody that can hold their own on the defensive end, even if you want them to be going forward. They have to be able to not lose points coming backwards. And then lastly, I'm going to highlight a guy that has been absolutely killing it to start the season. So that's Kyle Duncan. He is actually one of the top MLS players so far this season. I'll just highlight this season. So you can see he last year was okay. He was a solid player, but never really hit these highs. He started really, really well, and he does not have an assist or a goal. So you can see this is a pure 58. I mean, you score 58, even if you're coming off the bench, you're going to have a good game. You score 50, you're going to have a good game even if you're coming off the bench. So he's putting up a ton of numbers. He's one of the top players in MLS in terms of duel percentage. He's one of the top players in MLS in terms of tackles, and he's okay at interceptions. So he's got 2 of the big 3 absolutely nailed, which you can see this is the reason why he's killing it right now. So this is kind of another guy that I think he might, and he's only 23, if this is the kind of form and the kind of player that he is now, he could be one to watch as potentially one of the gold standard type guys moving forward. And he's half the price of Walker Zimmerman right now. So you'd like to see him add the assist and the goals to his game. But as far as the big 3, the holy trinity of defending, you can't get much better than Kyle Duncan has to start the season. So that's going to be it for the video today. I hope you guys learned a little bit about what they're looking for in terms of defenders and which defenders perform really, really well. If you did like the video, please make sure to subscribe and like the video. It does help me out a lot. I am trying to build a pretty decent channel here, so if you guys have any feedback, I ask this I think every video, but if you have any feedback, feel free to let me know. A lot of you guys have reached out on Discord, and it's been really great feedback, so I really love to hear from you guys. But until the next time, Vamos United.